they approached a bare, melancholy room. Sitting at one of the desks was a lonely boy reading a book by a feeble fire. And Scrooge sat down to see his poor, forgotten self as he used to be. Poor boy. I wish... it's too late now. What is the matter? Well, nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I should like to have given him something. That's all. A little girl, much younger than the boy, came darting in and threw her arms about his shoulders. I have come to bring you home, dear brother. Father is so much kinder now. He sent me in a coach to bring you. She clapped her hands and laughed and stood on tiptoe to embrace him. Then she began dragging him in a childish eagerness towards the door. A fragile creature, but she had a large heart. So she had. I'll not gainsay its spirit, God forbid. She died a woman, I think, and had children. One child. Yes. Your nephew. Yes. They were in a city. The spirit stopped beside a certain warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he knew it. Know it? Was I apprenticed here? At the sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting on a high desk, Scrooge cried in great excitement, "Where's old Fezziwig? Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig, alive again!" Old Fezziwig laid down his pen, looked at the clock, rubbed his hands together, laughed all over his body, and called out in a comfortable, rich, oily, fat, jovial voice, "Yo-ho there! Ebenezer! Dick!" Scrooge's former self, now grown into a young man, came briskly in, followed by his fellow apprentice. "Dick Wilkins, to be sure, bless me, yes, it's Dick Wilkins." He was very much attached to me, was Dick. "Yo-ho, my boys! No more work tonight! Christmas Eve, Dick! Christmas, Ebenezer! Clear away now, let's have some room before a man can say Jack Robinson!" It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off, the floor was swept, fuel was heaped upon the fire, and the warehouse was as warm and snug and pleasant a ballroom as you would desire on a winter's night. In came the fiddler, who went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it, and tuned like 50 stomachaches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast, substantial smile. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In they all came, one after another, and away they all went. 20 couples at once. Hands half around and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of grouping. There were cakes and there were pies, but the great effect of the evening came when old Fezziwig stood out to dance with his wife. 24 couples of dancers, but had there been twice as many, old Fezziwig would have been a match for them, and Mrs. Fezziwig too. A positive light appeared to issue from their calves. During the whole of this time, Scrooge had acted like a man out of his wits. He remembered everything, recollected everything, enjoyed everything. A small matter to make these people, these silly people, so full of gratitude. Small? Is it not? He spent but a few pounds. Is that so much that he deserves this praise? It isn't that. It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. What is the matter? Nothing in particular. Something, I think. I should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk. Just now. That's all. Again, Scrooge saw himself. He was older now, in the prime of life. There was an eager, greedy look in the eye, which showed the passion which had taken root, and the shadow where the growing tree would fall. He sat by the side of a fair young girl, in whose eyes were tears. It matters little. To you, very little. Another idol has displaced me. What idol has displaced you? A golden one. This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and nothing it condemns with such severity as the pursuit of wealth. You fear the world too much. I've seen your nobler aspirations fall off, one by one, until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Even if I have grown so much wiser, I'm not changed toward you. We were one in heart. Now we are two. I can release you. Have I ever sought release? In words? No. In a changed nature. In everything that made my love of any value in your sight. I release you. You may have pain in this, a very, very, very brief time. But you will dismiss the recollection gladly as of an unprofitable dream for which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen. Spirit, show me no more. Why do you delight to torture me? These are the shadows that have been. That they are what they are. Do not blame me. Remove me! I cannot bear it. Take me back. Haunt me no longer! Scrooge observed that the light from the spirit's head was shining bright and clear. He seized the extinguisher cap and pressed it down on its head. The ghost dropped down beneath it. But though Scrooge pushed with all his force, he could not shut out the light, which streamed forth from under it unbroken. Scrooge was conscious of being exhausted, and also of being in his own bedroom. He had barely time to reel to bed before he fell into a deep sleep. Awaking in the middle of a prodigiously tough snore, Scrooge remembered the prediction of Jacob Marley, and imagined he had been restored to consciousness for the second messenger dispatched to him. The bell tolled one. A strange voice called him by his name, a glorious giant. Come, know me better, man! Though the spirit's eyes were gentle, Scrooge did not like to meet them. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me! He was clad in a simple green robe bordered with white trim. On his head he bore a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Spirit, I went forth last night upon compulsion, and I learned a lesson which is working now. Tonight, if you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it. Touch my robe. Scrooge held it fast, and the spirit took him straight to his clerk's house. Up rose Mrs. Cratchit, and she laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda Cratchit, second of her daughters, while Master Peter Cratchit plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes. Two younger Cratchits came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelt the goose. And in came Bob, the father, with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bore a little crutch.